How is everybody doing? Welcome back to another episode of The Banker Next Door. I am your host, Dr. Joe Berquist. Today, I wanted to talk about what does generative AI mean for the future of banking. And I'm going to have a little fun with this episode today because I might actually use this as a precursor into kind of a larger series on AI because AI is a very kind of deep and winding topic. I think you'll see what I mean by the time we get to the end of this. I'm going to talk about a few books here at the end, but I'm going to kind of start off in a general sense here. I want to share something with everybody right here. So this is called the emerging technology maturity curve, and I know this is a tad bit small here on the screen, but so the reason why this is important and the reason why I wanted to point this out is because this is the curve that you get whenever you have any kind of emerging technology. So you have basically the technology trigger. So we had the AI kickoff, obviously the chat GPT when that got rolled out about a year and a half ago was just a huge game changer. And then what happens is you get this peak of inflated expectations. And I feel like this is almost where we're at right here. When you look at the kind of stock market, like Nvidia, kind of where things are going with the semiconductor industry, the computer chips that are needed to basically fuel the data centers, which is needed to fuel the cloud, which is needed to provide all the data and the information that's to go into the machine learning, which then works its way into the AI. And then the AI gets trained on all the data and stuff that goes into it. So, but I feel like this is kind of where we're at here right now. I feel like we're at like this peak of inflated expectation, and we are probably going to come back down through what's called the trough of disillusionment. And then we start to curve back up through the slope of enlightenment and the plateau of productivity. So, and why do I think this is important? I think this is important because I think in all of this kind of frenzy, um, we have to keep expectations in line, right? Like we can't get too crazy, we can't get too out of sight. I think I've seen a lot of presentations in the last couple months from people at whether it would be chamber events, networking events, industry things, stuff like that. People talking about AI, and they'll come in and they'll say, oh, you can make all this money with AI, and it can lead, and I always stop and I always say, okay, like, not to be rude, not to put you on the spot, but how can I make money right now today with AI? And I want details. I want details. Get the nitty gritty. Don't and the conversation then always seems to steer back toward efficiencies. Like, oh, you can use this to create efficiencies, make things, be more productive, be more efficient. Like, okay, well, now you're talking about time saver. Now you're talking about saving money. And okay, yeah, that maybe can help me decrease my cost. But when you say it can make you money, I'm talking about revenues. I want a revenue stream. I'm talking about something like a product line that's gonna help me drive the revenues, the top line numbers of the bank. So like, what are we talking about here in reality? And I see AI right now, I see as again, it's like a productivity tool. It can help to streamline things, can help make things work more. You can help you work more productively. One of the examples I've reported on is basically JP Morgan Chase, and how JP Morgan Chase is now embedding AI into basically all their main product lines and their business units, and they've created their own version of AI called LLM Suite, which is kind of like their version of Chat GPT. It's very, very interesting. They're going full bore into this thing. So, but I wanted to point out, I've been thinking a lot about this recently. I just wanted to point out this emerging technology maturity curve, because this is the way that technology goes. You get, like I said, something happens, you get this new technology introduced, and then you have this massive peak of inflated expectations. It goes to the moon, and then you kind of come back down to reality. And I think that this is what's going to happen. I think with AI, I think we're going to come. I think in a very real way, it's been overhyped. I think the reality of it's going to come back down, and we're going to kind of go through this little bit of trough, but then it'll move back up, and we'll get the slope of enlightenment where AI will continue to improve, and then it will be able to do different things, and then we'll get to a plateau of productivity. As like I said, this is typically how it goes, but we shall see. So, but let's take that out for a second, and then what I want to do is now I want to jump into some other articles here with everybody. Okay, so before we get to that, I just want to go to this. So AI carries ongoing stock market rally, renewing bubble concerns. So investor enthusiasm for artificial intelligence has carried the broader stock market through the first half of 2024 as companies closely tied to the technology recorded outsized gains. Oh, interesting. The S&P 500, which settled at new all-time highs 31 times throughout the first half, ended June up nearly 14.5% from the end of 2023. AI stocks fared far better, with the S&P Kensho Artificial Intelligence Enablers and Adopters Index jumping nearly 27.5% through the first half. The index tracks the stock performance of companies developing AI or companies expected to benefit from AI technology adoption. This rapid rise has renewed concerns over just how far the rally can run and whether a new bubble has formed. The AI rally is absolutely not sustainable, but it's only the early innings of the story, said Paul Schatz, president of Heritage Capital. AI is the best story out there and an easy narrative to spin and sell. Yes, but I think the big things here are, are we looking at a bubble based on outside gains? And he even says right here, the AI rally is absolutely not sustainable. It's right there. It's not sustainable. And yeah, okay, it's an easier thing to sell. But like I said, I feel like we're at the peak of the inflated expectations. And we're now going to, and then, NVIDIA Corp, again, is arguably driving this AI rally. Stocks in the semiconductor company, one of the most prominent names associated with AI, gained nearly 150% through the first half and saw its market cap climb to 3.32 trillion on June 18th. It's just, it's just crazy, and then you can see here the biggest AI stocks saw sizable gains, with NVIDIA up 149%, Broadcom up 43%, Meta Platforms 42%, Alphabet 30%, Microsoft 18%, S&P 500 overall 14.48%. IT and communication services far outperform the rest of the S&P 500. You can see information technology, communication services well ahead of S&P 500 right there. And okay, so now I've kind of set the stage here a little bit with like the maturity curve. We're talking about the AI stock rally, how we've kind of reached this frenzy in the stock market. So now that we've got this frenzy going, we've talked a little bit about the evolution and maturity of technology, specifically AI. So now let's see here. Let's look at this article that says basically transforming banking with generative AI opportunities and considerations. Implementing generative AI poses both great opportunities and great risks. Here's how banks can prepare for its implementation. Okay, now they start out here with kind of a story. So you are the CEO of a $10 billion community bank, and you just came back from Bank Director's annual Acquired or Be Acquired conference in Arizona, which is a wonderful time. While there are still some headwinds, such as margin pressure and heightened regulatory scrutiny, you feel optimistic about potential mergers and acquisitions activity with the recent surge in bank valuations and the anticipation of lower interest rates. You feel ready to lead your bank through a period of higher growth. Then you get an email from one of your directors with a link to McKinsey & Company's article capturing the full value of generative AI in banking, projecting that the banking industry could bring in $200 billion to $340 billion, equivalent to 9% to 15% of operating profits through AI-generated productivity. The email includes a simple question: are we ready for this? Banks are on the cusp of a transformation driven by advancements in predictive AI, generative AI, and machine learning. Using these technologies to enhance current operations and bolster fraud protection, banks have the potential to identify efficiencies and offer superior digital banking experiences. This is particularly true in areas such as enhanced back office operations, customer acquisition and growth, loan operations, fraud detection, and risk management. The challenge involves balancing adopting innovative AI solutions against ethical, compliance, and regulatory challenges. So, opportunities and risks. So, generative AI is creating new opportunities to improve call center intelligence, fraud detection and prevention, relationship building, analytics, and regulatory compliance. Every day, it seems as though there is a new headline about a financial institution deploying generative AI. At Santa Cruz, we are exploring AI and generative AI to enhance our fraud detection capabilities, says JB Manriquez, the Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer at California based Santa Cruz Bank. These technologies help us mitigate fraud transactions, reduce fraud losses, and protect our customers' data. Ensuring data integrity, accuracy, and security is crucial as we continue to meet regulatory requirements and help our customers combat fraud. While generative AI's impact promises to be transformational, like any new technology, it presents unique risks for banks that include model fairness and bias risk. Now, where would that come into play? That would come into play with lending. So, in other words, you start using AI for underwriting, model fairness and bias risk in residential mortgages, commercial lending, consumer lending, intellectual property infringement. In other words, where could that come into play? Marketing. You go to market a product for a bank and you start using some generative AI that basically is creating images, and maybe it takes some images that aren't necessarily there. Data privacy concerns, security threats, ethical and regulatory compliance, and then obviously auditing and transparency. So utilizing generative AI in banking decisions presents opportunity and notable risks. AI could inadvertently advantage or disadvantage consumers if not managed properly. It's essential to maintain strict control over who holds, uses, and handles customer data, ensuring it isn't exposed or misused. So getting your bank ready for generative AI. So as banks continue to implement AI and machine learning, bank leaders should continue to educate themselves on the technology's benefits and pitfalls, assess the abilities of their team to adapt to and gain efficiencies from AI, and equip staff with the skills necessary to implement and manage it. So to capture the full promise and value of generative AI, bank executives will need to create a strategic roadmap to address why, when, and how to implement generative AI, put together a talent development program, develop operational model and business cases, decide if the bank will use an existing network or build an internal model specifically for the bank, assess and prepare data availability, accessibility, and privacy, develop the appropriate risks and controls specific to generative AI. So you realize how transformative the technology can be as long as precautionary measures are in place and you have a well-designed implementation strategy. You pull out your laptop and get ready to respond to your director. So, very interesting. I think that, there is a lot of opportunity there. When you talk about enhancing current operations, the bolster fraud protection, the banks have the potential to identify efficiencies and other superior digital banking experiences. We talk about back office operations, customer acquisition and growth, loan operations, fraud detection, and risk management. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on there. I'm just going to venture with this. I'm going to take a guess with this. I'm going to say that I think that I don't want to use the word easy. I don't think any of this is easy. I think the quickest implementation, obviously, I think fraud detection and risk management. I think those two things, you could really probably see some really good things happen with rather quickly. Enhancing back office operations, I really think that depends on what it is you're doing. Like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? I think the customer acquisition and growth and the loan operations, that to me is the trickiest. That to me is the trickiest part, because that's where I see all of these risks here, this model fairness and risk bias, the intellectual property infringement, data privacy concerns, security threats, ethical and regulatory compliance, that to me is the area where all this other stuff comes in. And that makes it, to me, a lot more harder to roll this stuff out and implement it. And and again, it's one of those things. It's like, how I think you have to look at, before you even consider AI. I think you have to kind of take a step back and you have to do a technology maturity assessment of your bank. And you have to look at, well, where are you at in your data analytics? Where are you at? Are you even using machine learning? Are you really invested in some of these technologies? How far down the road are you? Like, in other words, if you haven't, if you're not doing anything deeply, I think, with data analytics, if you haven't really gotten into like automation of certain things, like if you're not using, what am I thinking of here? If you're not using RPA, robotic process automation, if you're not using low code and no code, and maybe using BPM to map out some of your processes and things that are going on throughout the bank. If you don't have like that level of sophistication yet, you probably shouldn't be jumping right into AI or be experimenting with that. I think it's like building blocks, right? Like, I think you need to kind of build your way up to these things before you go to tackle something like this. I also think that you have this area of, there's all this stuff going on with BaaS, banking as a service, and what is happening with, and the key there is with the vendor relationship. I think that how banks manage the vendor relationship is going to continue to evolve. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And in terms of like, what you're going to have to do, the questions you're going to have to ask and things like that. So I think it's going to get really interesting and really challenging in a certain respect. And that leads back to the AI thing here. Like, what if you're going to work with a vendor, or if you're going to hire a vendor to help you implement some level of AI into your bank? How are you working with that vendor? What does the contract look like? What are they doing? What are you expecting your employees to do? I think there's a lot there that needs to be fleshed out and needs to be thought through very deeply. So that's just kind of a quick intro right there into like I said, where I think things are at with the market. I personally, my 2 cents, I would not be afraid at the moment to kind of hang back. I would not be afraid in this moment to kind of hang back a little bit. Like I said, I think we're at the peak of inflated expectations, and this is going to come back down. I mean, look, I've played with ChatGPT, I've played with Bard and Grunk and all these other ones, and yeah, it can do some cool things. It can help you. It can help you write certain things real quick or whatever. Like I kind of find it funny that, like, like you draft like a legal document, right? Like, and then, if you took that back to your attorney and said, hey, look at this, look what ChatGPT did. It drafted this legal document for me. And, you take that back to the attorney. But the problem is, like, ChatGPT is not a lawyer. It's not licensed to practice law. You know what I mean? Like, you still have to, the reality at the moment is, you still got to take that document to that attorney. That attorney still has to draft that document and look at it. Maybe in 5 years or 10 years, it might be a different story. Maybe the attorneys will all be using this to draft their documents and then just review them. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not at the point yet where this AI is just completely replacing everything and everybody and taking everybody's job. Like, we're not there yet. So I don't think it would be a bad thing to kind of hang back a little bit. And in this instance, instead of being a first mover, I don't think it would be a bad thing to be a fast follower. Be a fast follower. Let some other banks, let JP Morgan, like I said, they're rolling all this stuff out and they're doing this and everything. Let's, watch them for a little bit. Watch them for a little bit. Let's see how this plays out. Let's see how the kind of evolution of what needs to happen with bank regulators and how you have to work with vendors and stuff. Let's see how that works out. So, but real quick, just on another note, a couple of books that I just wanted to mention here real quick. So I've been looking into a number of different AI books recently, and I came across a couple ones that I thought were really good and really interesting. So this book is called Dark Aeon, and this is Transhumanists and the War Against Humanity, written by Joe Allen. Very, very thought-provoking book. I'll put it that way. A lot of deep stuff, quite kind of in the, I would say, like the darker side of all of this AI and technology. And then I just got Ray Kurzweil, just got his brand new book called The Singularity is Nearer When We Merge with AI. Kind of scary, honestly, very scary. Ray, so for anybody who doesn't know, Ray Kurzweil is kind of like one of the godfathers of AI. He's a technologist, a futurist. He wrote The Singularity is Near, I believe, in 2005, and this is basically his update to this book. And he's been writing about AI and kind of the future of technology for a very long time. So I was just curious to hear kind of what Mr. Kurzweil, or what he was going to say, what his thoughts were on kind of where are we going here. The whole concept of this singularity thing really scares the hell out of me, to be frank. And then the last book I just wanted to talk about this is called Wired from McKinsey. So this is the McKinsey Guide to Outcompeting in the Age of Digital and AI. And this book is fantastic. I've read through this book and still reading through it. And basically, what this is this is a book for basically all of your CIOs, a lot of your IT people. Like if you're working on projects or you're implementing projects of any kind in your bank, I would highly recommend you read Rewired, and because there's just a ton of great information in there. Really tells you how to handle a lot of these projects, kind of guide you through it, gives you some really awesome direction. And I will do more in-depth reviews on each one of these books. Like I said, and I'm probably going to develop this into an ongoing like AI series, like AI for banking, and how that's gonna work and how that's gonna develop from there. So, but again, hopefully, I hope people might have found this episode a little interesting, because I'm not just out here with kind of the AI pom poms, just running around. I'm trying to take a more methodical approach, very hopefully a deep thinking, logical approach to this whole thing, and basically saying, hey, maybe it's not a bad idea to kind of pump the brakes a little bit and say, let's just give it a little bit here and see how this whole thing plays out, because it's very fluid. I feel like there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of mania around all this, and I am not convinced that, at least in the short run, in the next, say, 3 to 5 years, that AI is really going to deliver on all these promises. Again, not to say that it won't, I just don't think it's going to happen quite as quick as people think. So, but anyway, I will be back. There will be, like I said, there will be more episodes. There will be more content built around this whole AI notion here. As I get into kind of different parts of this, I am going to explore different topics here. I'm going to get off the banking a little bit as we go down this technology rabbit hole, because I am going to talk about like what things such as transhumanism and human 2.0, the singularity, things that I think a lot of people aren't really that familiar with. I think a lot of people, I think that what I find so fascinating about the AI space is that I think you have people breaking into two camps. I think you have technology people, like over here, like people who just love technology and want to develop technology for the betterment of people, or to just make things better, more efficient, whatever. But then you have what are called transhumanists over here, and they have a much different, deep, kind of darker agenda, and it wraps all into this Kurzweiler with the singularity and human 2.0, and upgrading the human and merging man and machine, and creating this AI god called the singularity, and basically worshiping the AI guy. It gets into a really crazy kind of place. And but like I said, I'll explore more of that in depth in other episodes, as like I said, as this thing kind of continues to evolve and move forward. But like I said, hopefully you found this interesting. Hopefully I didn't get too off the rails there at the end. But yeah, if like I said, if you like this episode, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, as that always helps the channel. We are on YouTube, Rumble, and all major podcast platforms. And please make sure to leave your comments down below. I would love to hear your comments, in particular on this topic. And I will try to get back to everybody as best I can, as always. And I hope everyone stays safe and good out there. And I will see everybody again real soon. Thanks a lot.